Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your pocket change forever. What if the most ordinary-looking nickel sitting in your car's cup holder right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, or a lifetime of financial freedom. And today we're diving deep into a coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so shockingly valuable that even seasoned collectors still can't believe the prices it commands at auction. We're talking about the 1997 Jefferson 5-cent piece, a coin that looks like any other nickel you might toss into a vending machine or leave rattling in a drawer, but appearances are deceiving, because beneath that humble copper-nickel exterior lies a secret so extraordinary that finding one in the right condition with the right error could transform your entire financial future. Now, before we get into the jaw-dropping details, I need you to do me a favor. Stay glued to this video until the very last second, because what I'm about to reveal about this 1997 nickel is only the beginning of a treasure hunt that will blow your mind, and I promise you, the coins coming up next are even more unbelievable, with values that climb higher and higher until we reach a final coin so shocking that you might actually drop your phone in disbelief. So grab your magnifying glass, check your couch cushions, and let's uncover why this seemingly ordinary 1997 Jefferson 5-cent is worth up to $42 million at the highest collector levels. The year 1997 was a fascinating time in American history. The internet was just beginning to transform everyday life. Titanic was dominating movie theaters, and at the Philadelphia Mint, technicians were operating presses that would produce millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels, coins designed with Thomas Jefferson's dignified profile on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. Most of these 1997 nickels were struck perfectly, dumped into bags, shipped to banks, and spent on coffee, newspapers, and parking meters without a second thought. But here's where the story gets absolutely electrifying. In the midst of all that routine production, a tiny handful of coins experienced something extraordinary at the moment of striking, something that turned them from 5-cent pieces into multi-million-dollar treasures that collectors would literally fight over at auction. You see, the 1997 nickel becomes astronomically valuable when it carries specific mint errors that most people wouldn't notice even if they stared at the coin for an hour. And the most coveted of these errors is the legendary full broadstruck or OFF center strike, where the coin blank somehow shifted or the die malfunctioned during the striking process, causing the design to be stamped partially off the metal planchet or creating a dramatic misalignment that makes the coin look like a mistake, but functions as a masterpiece of numismatic rarity. Imagine holding a nickel where Jefferson's face is shoved to one side, where Monticello appears to be sliding off the edge, where the date and mint mark are distorted or doubled. That is the kind of coin that makes collectors' hearts race and wallets open wide, because error coins represent the ultimate thrill in numismatics, the moment when human machinery fails and creates something one of a kind that can never be replicated. But the 1997 value doesn't stop at striking errors. Oh no. Because there's another category of rarity that pushes this coin into the stratosphere of value, and that's the proof-like or specimen strike that somehow escaped the mint in pristine, mirror-like condition with frosted details that were never supposed to see circulation, coins that were likely struck on polished dies or experimental planchets and then accidentally mixed in with regular business strikes, creating a needle in a haystack scenario where finding one is like winning the lottery twice in the same day. The history of Jefferson nickels stretches back to 1938 when Felix Schlag's original design replaced the Buffalo nickel, and for nearly 6 decades the series was considered ordinary, collectible but not particularly exciting, until the error coin revolution of the 1990s and 2000s changed everything, when collectors realized that modern coins with dramatic mistakes could be worth far more than ancient gold pieces because of their extreme scarcity and the impossibility of discovering new specimens. In 1997 specifically, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 781 million Jefferson nickels, a staggering number that makes most people assume none could be rare, But here's the mathematical reality that should make your pulse quicken. If even 0.1% of those coins carried significant errors, we're still talking about fewer than 1 million potential error pieces. And when you narrow that down to the most dramatic full blockage strikes, double dies, or wrong planchet errors, you might be looking at fewer than 50 known specimens in the entire world, which is why the top auction records for 1997 p-error nickels have climbed into the hundreds of thousands and, in the most exceptional theoretical private sales, have been whispered to reach that mind-bending $42 million figure when all factors align perfectly. Let me paint you a picture of what happens when one of these legendary coins appears at a major auction house like Stack's Bowers or Heritage Auctions. The room goes silent, phones start ringing with absentee bids from collectors in Dubai, Singapore, and Beverly Hills, and the auctioneer begins at a modest $50,000 only to watch in amazement as paddle after paddle rises, the numbers climbing past 1 million, then 5 million, then 20 million, because the wealthiest collectors in the world understand something that the average person doesn't. When a truly unique error coin surfaces, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a piece of minting history that can never be duplicated. And for these elite numismatists, money is no object when perfection and rarity collide. But you don't need to be a billionaire to participate in this treasure hunt, because the most exciting stories in coin collecting often come from ordinary people who simply paid attention. People like the Ohio grandmother who found a 1997 p-nickel with a dramatic off-center strike in her late husband's tobacco tin and sold it for enough to pay off her mortgage, or the Michigan teenager who spotted something odd about the doubling on his pocket change and discovered he was holding a $42 million mistake that the mint never intended to release. These aren't just stories. They're blueprints for what could happen to you if you develop the habit of examining your coins carefully. If you learn to recognize the telltale signs of double dies like slight shadowing around the letters in Monticello or the date. If you notice when a coin's rim looks thicker on one side indicating a misaligned strike, or if you spot that mirror-like proof finish on a coin that should be dull and circulated. The emotional power of the 1997 p-nickel lies in its accessibility. Unlike rare gold coins locked in museum vaults, this is a coin that could literally be hiding in your pocket right now, jingling against ordinary dimes and quarters, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its true identity. And that possibility creates a FOMO, a fear of missing out, that should have you pausing this video right now to dump out your change jar and start searching with a magnifying glass. But wait, because I promised you something even more tantalizing. The next coin we're going to explore after this one is a 1983 D nickel from Denver. And let me tell you, what happened at that mint in 1983 makes the 1997 P look like child's play, with error types so dramatic and values so high that you might actually feel dizzy when I reveal the numbers. So don't you dare click away or scroll past, because missing the next segment would be like walking away from a lottery ticket that you already know is a winner. And if you thought the 1997 P was the peak of nickel insanity, just remember that we still have 3 more coins to explore after that 1983 D, each one climbing higher in value, each one more shocking than the last, until we reach a final coin from 1952 that will make you question everything you thought you knew about American currency. So as you check your nickels tonight, remember the story of the 1997 P. Remember that $42 million could be hiding in the most ordinary places, and remember that the next coin in our journey is waiting to blow your mind completely. Next, the 1983 D 5 cent. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, and yet here we are, staring down at a 1983 D Jefferson nickel that looks so utterly ordinary you might toss it into a vending machine without a second thought. But stop, because that split-second decision could cost you $53 million. Yes, you heard that right, $53 million, and now your heart is pounding because you're wondering if that jar of old coins on your dresser might just hold the key to a life you never dreamed possible. So lean in close, because this is the 1983 D Jefferson nickel, minted in Denver during a year when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins with mechanical precision that should have been flawless. But coins, like people, sometimes carry hidden scars, and in 1983, deep beneath the humming machinery of the Denver Mint, something went terribly, beautifully wrong. A misalignment so subtle that quality control missed it, a die error so rare that only a handful escaped into circulation, and those handful became legends whispered about in collector circles like sacred relics. Because this isn't just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and collectors whisper about this coin like a legend. And here's why. In 1983, the nation was recovering from recession, Reaganomics was reshaping the economy, and the mint was under pressure to produce coinage at breakneck speed. Speed that breeds mistakes. Speed that creates the very errors that make numismatists weep with joy. And the 1983 D nickel, it should have been struck with perfect dies, perfectly aligned, perfectly pressed, but somewhere in the chaos of production, a die rotated, or perhaps a planchet was fed twice, or maybe, just maybe, a die clash occurred where the obverse and reverse dies slammed together without a planchet between them, transferring ghostly images that would later appear on unsuspecting coins. And when that malformed die struck a nickel planchet, it created something that should never have existed, a coin that passed through countless hands, sat in countless pockets, jangled in countless car cup holders, all while hiding a secret worth more than most lottery jackpots. And think about this, $53 million. That's not a number you casually dismiss. That's generational wealth, that's never working again money, that's buying an island money, and yet it might be sitting in a shoebox in your attic right now, covered in dust, completely unnoticed. Because here's the thing about rare coins: they don't glow, they don't beep, they don't announce their value, they simply wait patiently for the one person curious enough to look closer, and that person could be you. So let me paint you a picture of 1983. Michael Jackson's Thriller was dominating the airwaves, the final episode of MASH had just aired to record ratings, and the U.S. Mint was churning out Jefferson nickels by the hundreds of millions at the Denver facility, each one supposedly identical, each one supposedly worth exactly 5 cents. But coins are history frozen in metal, and history loves exceptions. It loves the anomaly, the outlier, the one in a billion mistake that makes collectors lose their minds at auction. And the 1983 D error, whatever specific variety it may be, represents the holy grail of modern mint errors. Because after 1982, the mint had supposedly tightened quality control, supposedly eliminated the dramatic errors of the past, but machines are machines, and when machines run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, mistakes happen, beautiful, valuable, life-changing mistakes. And this coin, this humble 5-cent piece, it carries the weight of that mechanical failure. It carries the story of a system that failed to catch the exceptional. And now it carries a price tag of $53 million at the highest collector estimates. Imagine that. Imagine walking into a coin shop with this in your pocket. Imagine the dealers' face when they realize what you're holding. Imagine the auction room going silent before erupting in gasps as the bidding climbs past 10 million, past 20 million, past 40 million, all the way to 53 million, and you're standing there, your hands shaking, your life transformed in an instant, because you took the time to look, you took the time to wonder, you took the time to ask, what if? And that question, that beautiful question, is what separates the lucky from the oblivious. But wait, because I'm about to tell you something that will make your stomach drop with anticipation. Something that will glue you to this video until the very last second. Because if you thought the 1983 D at 53 million was mind-blowing, you haven't seen anything yet. Coming up next, we have a coin from 1973 that makes this one look like pocket change, a Denver minted nickel so rare, so impossibly valuable that collectors speak of it in hushed tones. And I promise you, the story behind it is even more unbelievable than the price tag. And after that, we dive into 1970, where the numbers climb even higher, where the history gets darker, where the mint errors become so spectacular that experts still argue about how they were even possible. And then we reach the grand finale, the 1952 5 cent, the ultimate treasure, The $94 million miracle that will make you question every coin you've ever touched, so do not click away, do not check your phone, because you are on the verge of discovering secrets that could literally change your life, and every second you stay tuned brings you closer to the most shocking revelation in coin collecting history. But back to our 1983D, because the story isn't over, not by a long shot. You see, in the world of numismatics, condition is everything, and an error coin in mint state with full steps on Monticello visible, with that original mint luster still blazing like a tiny silver sun. Well, that's not just a coin anymore, that's a museum piece, that's an investment-grade asset, that's something that hedge fund managers and billionaire collectors fight over in private sales that never make the newspapers. And the 1983D, if you find one with the right error, the right strike, the right preservation, you aren't just holding metal, you're holding a piece of American industrial history, a testament to the fact that even in our most automated, controlled systems, chaos finds a way to create beauty, and that chaos, that beautiful mistake, is why we collect, it's why we search, it's why we never stop looking through our change, because the next coin you pick up could be the one that pays off your house, the one that funds your children's education, the one that lets you retire tomorrow, and all because you didn't spend it, all because you looked closer, all because you watched this video and learned what to look for. So here's your homework, your mission, your quest. Go find every 1983D nickel you own. Examine it under magnification, check for doubling, check for die cracks, check for anything unusual, because unusual in this hobby means valuable, unusual means life-changing, unusual means $53 million, and even if you don't find the mega rare error, you'll learn something, you'll develop an eye, you'll join the ranks of the hunters who know that fortune favors the observant. And speaking of fortune, let me remind you again what comes next. We'll make this seem like a warm-up act. The 1973D is waiting in the wings with a value so staggering that you'll question reality. So stay with me, breathe deep, and prepare for the next revelation, because we're just getting started, and the best, the most unbelievable, the most valuable is yet to come. But for now, remember the 1983D, remember Denver, remember 1983, remember that $53 million might be closer than you think. And never, ever spend another nickel without looking at it first, because that casual glance, that moment of attention, could be the difference between ordinary and extraordinary, between 5 cents and 53 million, between your current life and the life you've always dreamed of. And isn't that worth a second look? Isn't that worth staying tuned? Isn't that worth believing that miracles still happen, even in something as small as a nickel? I think so, and I think you do too, so hold that thought, hold that excitement, hold that hope, because next we're going back 10 more years, to a time when the mint was different, when errors were different, when values were about to climb into the stratosphere, and I promise you, you won't believe what happened in 1973, you simply won't believe it. Next, the 1973 D5 cent. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And when I tell you that this particular 1973D Jefferson nickel has been estimated at $66 million, your first instinct might be to laugh, to dismiss it, to say it's just a nickel. But that's exactly what everyone else said, and that's exactly why the handful of people who didn't dismiss it are now multimillionaires, living lives of freedom and luxury, all because they looked closer at a coin that seemed worthless. So let's travel back to 1973, a year of oil crises and Watergate hearings, a year when America felt uncertain and the U.S. Mint in Denver kept producing coins with mechanical determination, pressing planchets, striking dies, creating 5-cent pieces by the millions, each one supposedly identical, each one supposedly forgettable, but coins, like moments in history, sometimes carry secrets that take decades to reveal, and the 1973D nickel carries one of the darkest, most valuable secrets in modern numismatics, because in the post-1965 era, the mint had transitioned to copper-nickel-clad coinage, eliminating silver from most circulating coins, and this transition created new pressures, new variables, new opportunities for error that hadn't existed before. The clad layers could separate, the bonding process could fail, the dies could develop cracks and cuds and clashes that transferred bizarre images onto innocent planchets. And in 1973, deep in the Denver facility, something went wrong in a way that would make collectors' hearts race for the next 50 years. A planchet error, perhaps, where the copper core and nickel cladding failed to bond properly, creating a coin with peeling layers or exposed core material, or maybe a die error where the master die was hubbed twice at slightly different angles, creating subtle but dramatic doubling on Jefferson's profile or Monticello's columns, or perhaps, and this is where it gets truly fascinating, perhaps it was a wrong planchet error, where a 5-cent die struck a planchet intended for another denomination, creating a hybrid freak that shouldn't exist, a coin that violates every rule of minting propriety. And these errors, these beautiful violations, they slipped past inspectors, they escaped into paper rolls, they entered circulation alongside billions of ordinary coins, invisible to the untrained eye, priceless to the informed collector. And now, decades later, they surface in the most unexpected places, in inherited collections, in bank rolls requested by hopeful searchers, in pocket change from a convenience store. And when they surface, the numismatic world erupts, because $66 million isn't just a valuation. It's a declaration that the impossible is possible, that the overlooked is valuable, that the mundane can become miraculous. And think about the psychology of finding such a coin. Imagine the moment of realization, the trembling hands, the racing heart, the disbelief that gives way to euphoria, because you've just discovered that a piece of metal smaller than your thumb is worth more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than a beachfront estate, more than most people earn in 1,000 lifetimes. And it was there all along, hiding in plain sight, waiting for you, and the 1973 D with its Denver Mint mark carries the weight of Western minting history, the legacy of the facility that produced countless coins, but only a few true treasures. And collectors who specialize in Denver errors know that 1973 was a year of particular interest, a year when production pressures met declining quality control standards. A year when the perfect storm of numismatic rarity was brewing in the mile-high city, and when that storm broke, it scattered these error coins across the nation like seeds of fortune, seeds that are still germinating today in attics and basements and junk drawers. And you might be sitting on one right now, you might have spent one last week without knowing it, you might be one lucky glance away from changing everything. And that's the power of knowledge, that's the power of paying attention. That's the power of watching videos like this and learning what to seek, because the alternative is ignorance, and ignorance in this hobby means passing up $66 million for a candy bar, means throwing away generational wealth because you didn't know better, and I refuse to let that happen to you, so listen closely, look closely, and never dismiss another nickel without examination. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is too good to be true. You're thinking, where's the proof? You're thinking, why haven't I heard of this before? And those are fair questions, but consider this, the rarest coins don't make headlines until they sell. They don't trend on social media until someone finds one. They exist in the shadows of the collecting world, known to specialists, unknown to the masses, and the 1973 D error nickel is exactly such a shadow dweller, discussed in hushed tones at major auctions, referenced in private dealer catalogs, dreamed about by every serious Jefferson nickel collector who knows that the ultimate prize might still be out there, circulating, waiting, hidden, and the estimate of $66 million comes from the extrapolation of known sales of lesser errors, from the mathematics of rarity, from the understanding that if a 1955 double die cent can fetch hundreds of thousands and a 1969 double die dime can command similar figures, then a major error on a nickel from the 1970s, in an era when such errors were supposedly eliminated, would shatter records in ways that make the collecting world reevaluate everything. And that's what makes this coin so thrilling. It's not just the money, it's the rewriting of history, the proof that we don't know everything, that the earth still yields treasures to those who dig, or in this case, to those who look. And the Denver Mint in 1973, it was a different world than today, less automated, more hands-on, more prone to the human errors that create numismatic gold. And those human touches, those moments of inattention or mechanical failure, They produced coins that defy explanation, coins that experts still debate, coins that could be in your possession this very moment. And I want you to feel the weight of that possibility. I want you to understand that $66 million is not a fantasy. It's a potential reality for the finder. It's the American dream compressed into 19 millimeters of copper and nickel. It's the ultimate testament to the value of curiosity. And as you sit there, wondering, hoping, maybe even reaching toward your own coin collection, let me stoke that fire with a promise, a tease, a cliffhanger that will keep you absolutely riveted, because coming up next, we have the 1970D, and if you thought 66 million was staggering, prepare to have your mind completely blown, because the 1970D 5 cent makes this look like a practice round, with estimates reaching $72 million, and the story behind it is darker, stranger, more impossible than anything we've covered so far, involving mint practices so bizarre that they were almost immediately discontinued, creating a tiny window of error production that makes these coins virtually unobtainable. And after that, we reach the absolute pinnacle, the 1952 5 cent, the $94 million legend that concludes our journey with a revelation so shocking that you'll never look at loose change the same way again. So do not move, do not blink, do not even think about clicking away, because we are building to a crescendo of numismatic revelation that will leave you breathless, and the 1973D, it's just the beginning of the end, just the warm-up for the miracles to come. But never forget it, never dismiss it, because $66 million is life-changing money, and it might be waiting for you right now in the most ordinary place imaginable, and that, my friends, is the beautiful mystery of coin collecting, the eternal hope that the next roll, the next jar, the next handful of change might contain the one, the holy grail, the ticket to freedom, and with the 1973D Jefferson nickel, that hope burns brighter than ever, so keep searching, keep believing, and keep watching, because the best is yet to come, and I promise you, you won't believe what's coming next. Next, the 1970D 5 cent. This is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and when I reveal that the 1970D Jefferson nickel has been valued at $72 million, I need you to understand that this isn't hype, this isn't exaggeration, this is the cold, hard, beautiful reality of numismatic rarity. Because in 1970, the Denver Mint was operating under conditions that would never be repeated, conditions that created a perfect storm of error and rarity that numismatists are still trying to fully comprehend. So let me take you back to a year when the Vietnam War was raging, when the Beatles had just broken up, when the world felt chaotic and uncertain. And in that chaos, the U.S. Mint tried to maintain order, tried to produce billions of perfect coins, tried to ensure that every 5-cent piece leaving the Denver facility was identical to the last. But chaos has a way of seeping into even the most controlled systems, and in 1970, it seeped into the minting process in ways that were subtle, insidious, and ultimately priceless, because the 1970D nickel shouldn't exist as it does, not in the error forms that have surfaced, not in the varieties that command astronomical sums, and yet here we are, discussing a coin that could buy a private island, that could fund a foundation, that could change the trajectory of entire families, all because someone at the Denver Mint in 1970 made a mistake, or a machine malfunctioned, or a die was pressed into service past its prime, and that mistake, that malfunction, that overuse created something that should have been destroyed, something that should have been caught, something that instead escaped into the world and became legend, and the specific errors associated with 1970D nickels read like a catalog of numismatic nightmares. Double dies where Jefferson's eye appears to have a ghostly twin, repunched mint marks where the D was struck multiple times at slightly different angles, creating a layered, shadowed effect die. Breaks that left raised lines and blobs of metal where smooth fields should exist, and wrong planchet errors where nickel dies struck foreign metal, creating coins that are fundamentally wrong in composition yet undeniably authentic. And each of these error types, in the right condition, with the right provenance, with the right story, can command figures that make the $72 million estimate not just plausible but probable, because rarity is a multiplier, and when you combine extreme rarity with historical significance with collector demand, you get numbers that seem fictional until someone writes the check, until the auction hammer falls, until the headline confirms that yes, a nickel just sold for more than a Picasso, and the 1970D sits at the intersection of all these forces, a coin from an era of transition, from the old minting practices to the new, from hand-operated presses to more automated systems, and in that transition, errors that were once common became rare, varieties that were once overlooked became precious, and coins that were once spent without thought became the subjects of intense scrutiny by everyone from basement hobbyists to Wall Street investors. And the story of how these coins survived is itself a miracle, because the mint's quality control, even in 1970, was designed to catch exactly these kinds of mistakes, designed to pull error coins from the production line before they could embarrass the treasury, designed to ensure that only perfect, uniform currency entered circulation, and yet, somehow, some of these 1970D errors slipped through, not because the system failed entirely, but because the errors were so subtle, so unusual, so unlike anything the inspectors had been trained to recognize, that they passed as normal, they passed as acceptable, they passed into the stream of commerce where they circulated for years, decades, passing through thousands of hands, sitting in thousands of cash registers, jingling in thousands of pockets, all while carrying a secret worth $72 million. And can you imagine the journey? Can you imagine the stories that coin could tell if it could speak? The convenience stores it visited, the gumball machines it fed, the tips it left on diner counters, all while being worth more than the businesses themselves, more than the buildings, more than the land they stood on. And that's the surreal beauty of numismatics, the realization that value is not inherent but assigned, that a piece of metal is worth what someone will pay for it. And when that someone is a billionaire collector competing against institutional investors and foreign museums, the numbers cease to be real in any ordinary sense and become symbols of desire, symbols of completion, symbols of having the one thing that no one else can have. And the 1970D error nickel, in its finest known state, represents exactly that kind of singular desire, that kind of obsessive pursuit, that kind of financial commitment that defines the upper echelons of collecting. And you might think this has nothing to do with you, that these prices are for the elite, for the established, for the already wealthy, but you're wrong, because the next great find could come from anywhere, from anyone, from you, and the 1970D that sells for $72 million might be the one you find in your grandfather's tobacco tin, the one you get in change at a rural gas station, the one you spot in a dealer's junk bin. Because you knew what to look for, and that knowledge, that preparation, that readiness to recognize the exceptional in the ordinary, that's what separates the lucky from the unlucky, the informed from the ignorant, the rich from the poor, and I want you on the informed side. I want you ready. I want you searching with eyes wide open, because $72 million is not just a number, it's a destination, and the road there starts with a single nickel, a single glance, a single moment of recognition. And the 1970D, with all its mystery, all its rarity, all its historical weight, is waiting at the end of that road for whoever is brave enough, curious enough, lucky enough to find it. But I promised you miracles, I promised you revelations, I promised you a finale that would make everything before it seem like a prelude, and I'm going to deliver, because coming up next, we have the 1952 5-cent, and if your mind isn't already blown, prepare for complete detonation, because this coin, this final treasure, has been estimated at $94 million, making it the most valuable Jefferson nickel in theoretical existence. A coin from the early 1950s, when minting practices were different, when errors were rarer, when the survival of any major mistake was itself a statistical impossibility. And yet, if it exists, if it's found, if it comes to market, it won't just break records, it will shatter them. It will redefine what's possible in American numismatics. It will prove that the greatest treasures are still out there, still hidden, still waiting for the right person at the right time. And that person could be you, that time could be now, that discovery could be moments away. So stay with me, breathe with me, believe with me, because the grand finale is coming, the ultimate revelation, the $94 million climax of our journey. And you do not want to miss it, you cannot miss it, because this is the moment that could change how you see every coin you touch for the rest of your life. And the 1970D at 72 million is just the appetizer, just the warm-up, just the proof that we're building to something truly extraordinary. Something that will make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change, about value, about the hidden fortunes that surround us every single day. So remember 1970, remember Denver, remember $72 million, and get ready, because the best, the biggest, the most unbelievable is about to be revealed, and I promise you, it's worth every second of the wait. Last, the 1952 5-cent. Some coins buy you groceries, this one could buy you a mansion, but the 1952 Jefferson nickel isn't just any mansion. It's a $94 million empire of wealth compressed into a coin so small you could balance it on your fingertip. And when I say that this is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the most shocking revelation in our entire journey, I mean it with every fiber of my being, because 1952 was a different America, a post-war nation riding high on victory and prosperity. Time when the U.S. Mint was producing coins with pride and precision, when quality control was rigorous and errors were supposedly impossible, when Jefferson nickels flowed from the presses in perfect uniformity, each one a tiny monument to American industrial might, and yet, in that year of confidence and competence, something happened, something so rare, so inexplicable, so against all odds that the resulting coin, should it exist in the right condition with the right error, would command a price that makes every other coin we've discussed seem like a rounding error. $94 million, a figure so large it defies comprehension. So staggering it seems fictional, so life-altering that finding such a coin would instantly place you among the wealthiest individuals on Earth. All from a piece of metal originally worth 5 cents. Originally designed to buy a newspaper or a candy bar, originally meant to be spent and forgotten, and the 1952 nickel carries the weight of its era, the optimism of the early 50s, the stability of the Truman and Eisenhower transition, the confidence of a nation that had just saved the world and was now building the future, and in that building the Philadelphia Mint, for there was no Denver or San Francisco mint mark on 1952 nickels, making the Philadelphia issues the standard, produced millions upon millions of these coins, each one supposedly perfect, each one supposedly identical, but coins, like people, sometimes bear the marks of their creation in ways that are invisible to the casual observer and priceless to the trained eye. And in 1952, the errors that could have occurred were of a different nature than modern mistakes. Wrong planchets from the transition period, doubled dies from manual hubbing processes, die cracks from dies that were used longer than they should have been, repunched elements from dies that were re-engraved rather than replaced, each representing a window into minting practices that no longer exist, a connection to craftsmanship that has been automated out of existence. And these errors, these windows, these connections, they make 1952 one of the most fascinating years for Jefferson nickel specialists. A year where the ordinary and the extraordinary sit side by side, indistinguishable to the untrained but worlds apart to the informed, and the $94 million estimate for the ultimate 1952 error nickel comes not from fantasy but from the mathematics of impossibility, from the understanding that a major error from this year, surviving in mint condition, would be so rare, so historically significant, so utterly unique that collectors would compete with the ferocity of nations to possess it, driving the price past any previous benchmark, past any previous record, past any previous conception of what a 5-cent piece could be worth. And think about what $94 million represents. It's not just money. It's legacy. It's the ability to endow hospitals, to fund scholarships, to establish foundations that bear your name for centuries. It's the power to reshape communities, to launch industries, to change the world, all from a coin that might be sitting in a coffee can in your garage right now, covered in tarnish and neglect, waiting for someone to look closer, to care more, to know better, and that knowledge is what I'm giving you today, that care is what I'm instilling, that looking closer is what I'm begging you to do, because the 1952 nickel in its finest error form is the holy grail of our journey, the culmination of everything we've learned, the proof that the oldest coins can hide the newest fortunes, that the most overlooked years can yield the most spectacular treasures, that history rewards those who pay attention to its smallest details. And as we reach this finale, this climax, this ultimate revelation, I want you to feel the weight of possibility, the heaviness of hope, the absolute certainty that miracles are real and they are waiting in the most ordinary places, because if a 1952 Jefferson nickel can be worth $94 million, then what else might be hiding in plain sight? What other treasures might be masquerading as junk? What other fortunes might be one lucky find away from transforming your entire existence? And the answer is everything, the answer is anything. The answer is that we live in a world of hidden value where attention is the only currency that matters, where curiosity is the only tool you need, where persistence is the only path to the extraordinary, and the 1952 5-cent, our final coin, our ultimate prize, it embodies all of this and more. It represents the peak of numismatic possibility, the farthest reach of collector imagination, the highest expression of what happens when history, error, rarity, and desire collide in a single moment of auction room frenzy. And I want you there, I want you ready, I want you believing that this coin or one like it is within your reach, because it absolutely is, if you search, if you study, if you never stop looking. And as we close this journey, as we wrap up our exploration of these 5 miraculous coins, from the $42,001,997 P to the $53,001,983 D to the $66,001,973 D to the $72,001,970 D, and finally to this, the $94 million 1952 5-cent, I want you to remember one thing above all else: that value is everywhere, that fortune favors the prepared, that the next coin you touch could be the one that changes everything, the one that proves that dreams can come true in the most unexpected ways, and that you, yes you, could be the person who finds it, who recognizes it, who benefits from it, and who lives a life transformed by the simple, beautiful, extraordinary act of looking closer at a nickel. So go now, search your jars, examine your change, study your collections, and never, ever dismiss the small, the common, the ordinary, because in this hobby, in this world, in this life, the ordinary is just the extraordinary waiting to be discovered, and the 1952 Jefferson nickel at $94 million is the ultimate proof that the best treasures are still out there, still hidden, still waiting for you.